This is the Picasso bug, a type of bug native to a few different areas in the more tropical parts of Africa. It can be found in countries such as the Ivory Coast, Benin, all the way over to Mozambique, and down to South Africa. It's a pretty wide distribution. Now, these guys are a type of true bug in the Hymenoptera, although a lot of people tend to confuse them with beetle. Can you stop beating each other up for 2 seconds? For 2 seconds. I can't take you anywhere. Now, these guys are related to shield bugs, more commonly known as stink bugs, and as such they do release a bunch of very bad smelling chemicals as a defense mechanism to deter predators. It does work very well because as cool as these guys look, they smell pretty bad if in distress and are very unappetizing for predators to eat. This is called the trilobite beetle, and you may be thinking, that doesn't look very much like a trilobite, that just kind of looks like a regular beetle. And it does, at least the male does. This is a female trilobite beetle, and it looks quite different than the male one does by a lot. It's also quite a lot bigger than the male. No matter the species of trilobite beetle, the female is always a lot bigger. The very, very obvious sexual dimorphism of the trilobite beetles comes from the fact that the female actually retains its larval form. Instead of doing a metamorphosis into an actual, beetle, it just continues to grow and retain its larval characteristics instead of changing into something that's not eldritch horror-like. Now, this is called neoteny, when the adult of a species just retains the larval or juvenile characteristics. In this case, it just being a large larva instead of any form of adult. Now, we're not really 100% sure why the trilobite beetles do this as far as I'm aware, but it may be to avoid expending all of that energy on reaching an adult form and being able to spend that energy instead on making more and more robust babies. Either way, it is a very neat example of some crazy sexual dimorphism in this species. This is the bumblebee scarab. Now, bumblebee scarabs are actually quite a wide variety of species that can be found pretty much everywhere in the world. While they have evolved to mimic bumblebees and look quite a lot like bumblebees, they actually don't sting. They are pretty much harmless to humans, at least in their adult form. However, the larvae, while not physically harmful to humans, they are considered to be a crop pest occasionally. The larvae of many types of bumblebee scarab beetles have their main food source being the roots of cranberry plant, and that makes them a cranberry plant crop pest, because when you chew on and eat the roots, that is not great for the health of the rest of the plant. Bumblebee scarabs are quite common, and they're one of the most common types of scarab beetles. And since they can be found worldwide, they are a very common type of bug to actually see. This is the sapphire-striped mosquito, known for its bright blue stripes of blue scales down its entire body. It's found in eastern North America, all the way from Quebec down to Florida, and even all the way west to Texas and New Mexico. Unlike pretty much all other mosquito species, it doesn't actually bite or take a blood meal from vertebrates. The males of the species don't bite or suck blood at all, and the females of the species have only ever been observed to take meals from annelids, that being worms and leeches. Since it doesn't bite humans, it's not assumed to be of any medical significance, and it's not known to carry any diseases, so unlike pretty much all other mosquitoes, it is harmless and also a very pretty mosquito. This is a species of Toxodera mantis, my new favorite type of bug in the world. So they are mantises related to praying mantises, flower mantises, orchid mantises, all that. They're in the mantis family, and they are very, very rare and very, very cool. Lots of them have very good mimicry, like this one, which looks quite a lot like a stick. There are 8 known species of them, 4 of which are found almost exclusively in Borneo, Indonesia, and the other species have been found in places in Asia such as Thailand, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Not a lot is known about them. There's only really 3 species that are known a lot about, including this one, which is the feathered mantis, which is found in Malaysia, Myanmar, Borneo, and Sumatra. Or this one, the dragon mantis, which has been found in Malaysia, Thailand, and Borneo. And it does very much look like a dragon. It is a very cool looking insect. And there's also this one, my absolute top favorite, the slender flower mantis, which has only been found in Borneo and a couple times in Malaysia. Now, these are the absolute coolest things, but unfortunately, since they're so rare, we really don't know a lot about them. It's been observed that the males are attracted to light and tend to go towards light sources, but not a lot of behavior ecology has been discovered about these guys. However, they are some of the coolest looking insects I have learned about recently. This is the frog-legged leaf beetle, a beetle which I am personally a very big fan of. They are named after their very large hind legs, which do look a little bit like a frog. They are an Asian beetle coming from countries such as India, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Now, there's not a whole lot known about them. They are cited as liking to live on kudzu, which is native to those areas but highly invasive in North America currently. Their most noticeable features are the colors, the very shiny rainbow of them, and their giant-ass frog-looking legs. Now, as of right now, we don't actually know the purpose of why they have such large legs. They're not used for jumping and can actually hinder the movement and don't allow them to move very fast. But we think it may be due to either sexual selection, for defense against predators, or to help them stay on the plants that they're currently feeding on. This is the red-dotted planthopper, also known as the wax-tailed planthopper. It's a species of planthopper native to Mexico as well as down into a few areas in South America, including Suriname and Brazil. And its most distinctive feature is this bizarre tail, from which it actually gets its name, the wax-tailed. And this is actually real wax. So planthoppers get their food from basically sucking the blood of plants, which is actually the phloem. And within the phloem, there's actually a bunch of junk that they don't really want, which gets excreted out the back into these waxy tails. And it's not really known 100% for sure what purpose these serve. They may be for sexual selection, they may be for deterring predators, or they may be helping cushion and drag when landing, but we don't really know for sure exactly. These tails also do tend to be quite fragile and do break off quite often. However, since they're produced through the diet, then they can quite easily just make more. This is the bronze glandular bush cricket. It's a rather large type of grasshopper native to areas in Europe, including Greece, Macedonia, and even all the way up into Serbia, Turkey, and Hungary. It's also known as the European locust and is quite common. However, populations have noticeably started to decline in the recent years due to human activities. They are rather large and chunky and notably eat mostly plant matter, but have been observed to eat other things such as smaller insects and scavenge on vertebrate corpses. However, they are reportedly not great hunters. They're quite slow and don't really jump, and they have rather poor eyesight, so they kind of just hunt by if a smaller insect somehow gets in front of them in their field of vision, they just kind of go for it, and if they catch it, they catch it. However, again, they're not great at it. They're not very fast, they don't really jump, they don't really fly, and they're reportedly not aggressive. Many species of grasshoppers have been observed to bite when threatened. These guys don't really do that. Their main defense is just freeze, and if necessary, just kind of slowly crawl away from the threat. The females have this quite large projection coming out of them, which is an ovipositor, not a stinger. It's used to lay eggs. And these eggs usually take like a year, year and a half, up to 2 years to like mature and be able to hatch. And when they do, apparently the larva can be cannibalistic. Love that for them. Overall, they're quite a neat species of bug. Very interesting. They look weird. They're very shiny. They're very slow and kind of chill and not great hunters. And I like them quite a lot. This little guy is the lava cricket, and yes, they do exactly what the name sounds like. These little guys are endemic to Hawaii and are just very, very interesting. As you may guess by the name, they do live on cooled lava flows, but only for a very short amount of time. After a volcano erupts, sometimes there is lava that flows out and eventually cools into volcanic rock. And as soon as the volcanic rock is cooled enough to not cook anything surrounding it, these guys start to show up. They're pretty much the first things to return to the site after a volcanic eruption. They just show up pretty much as soon as possible, before any plants, before even most microbes. Now, volcanic rock after an eruption is very, very barren. There is not a lot of stuff there. There's no food, there's barely any water, so it's very inhospitable to live on, but that is where these guys thrive. They survive only on eating sea foam, which contains a high level of the protein albumin, same thing found in egg whites, and decaying plant matter that is deposited on the rocks by either wind or the ocean waves. That is all they eat, seafoam and decaying plants. Now, the interesting thing is that they only live there for a pretty short amount of time. As soon as other life starts coming back onto the volcanic rock, as soon as more plants and animals and other insects and all that start to show up again, these guys leave. There's been a few research surveys done on this, and there's never been a single specimen found within 15 or so feet of living plant matter. They just don't go around other plants at all. Like, they have never been observed anywhere close to an actual living plant. So they just kind of appear out of nowhere, and as soon as other stuff starts to come back, they disappear, and we don't know where they go. They just up and fuck off somewhere, away from plants, away from the lava flow, and disappear completely until there's another volcanic eruption, at which point they come out again to live on the lava flows. They also have some very weird mating practices. The kind of main well-known characteristic of crickets is the sound that they make due to stridulation to attract mates. However, these guys, they don't have wings, and they also don't do stridulation. They don't make any mating sounds. And during mating, they have a very interesting form of sexual cannibalism, where the female will get with the male, and during the mating, they will basically act as a vampire and suck hemoglobin, which is kind of like insect blood, out of the male's legs during the mating. Now, this is different from many types of reproduction because this is actually more costly to the male than it is the female. Usually it's the opposite, where the females are at higher risk due to having to produce and carry the eggs or the babies or anything. It requires a lot more energy. However, in this case, it's quite a lot more dangerous for the male due to the fact that they're getting their blood sucked out. Now, due to the extreme location that these crickets frequent, it's very hard to study them, so quite a lot is not known about these guys. We don't know where they live in between the times of volcanic eruptions. We don't know how long they live, their entire life cycle, anything like that. All we basically know is that after a volcano erupts and it's cool enough for them to come out of hiding, they come out, they colonize the whole area, then as soon as basically any other form of life starts to come back to the lava flows, they will just leave, and we don't know where they go. And that's very interesting and a weird mystery that hopefully will be solved in the next couple years. This cool little guy is a mantid fly. They are a bunch of different types of insects that are related to lacewings and owl flies. They are called mantid flies because they have these raptorial front legs that are used in the same way that praying mantises do to catch their prey. They are highly predatory and will use those front legs in order to reach out and grab their prey, and often they have either parasitic or predatory larvae as well. And some of them are also mimics. For example, this one is the brown wasp mantid fly, which is mimicking a brown wasp and doing a very good job at it. Overall, these are just a very cool little group of insects, and I like them very much. Also, Ghost Dream, Heinz Hall, the sound used in this video, all proceeds go to Palestine. I would love to talk about Australian spider wasps. So this comment didn't specify, but the most common type of spider wasp in Australia is the orange spider wasp. So orange spider wasps live in most areas of Australia in most types of habitats. They're a decently large wasp, around an inch and a third about, or around 3 or so centimeters. So they're pretty big boys, and they're named after their very, very interesting coloring, which is to show that they are not fun to mess with. Like every type of spider wasp, they predate spiders, but for these guys, they mostly do either wolf spiders or huntsman spiders, the second largest type of spider in the world, which is very ambitious for a insect that, compared to a large huntsman, is not that big. As you can see here, this one up there has caught a very large huntsman spider and is now about to take it back to its nest where it can lay its eggs in it. Now, importantly, this spider is not dead. Yet. It is alive, and it will stay alive for a decent amount of time. It was paralyzed by the orange spider wasp's venom, and it can no longer move, and it will stay there until the larva that the spider wasp has put inside of it, or eggs at this point, but will hatch into larva. It will stay there until they eat it, mostly from the inside out. Now, while not that much of a danger unless you are a rather large spider, the venom is still very strong. It's not as strong as the very famous tarantula hawk wasp that is very famous for its very strong venom. This does have a more painful venom than, like, say, a paper wasp or a bee or something. It has been described as not being very fun. So while not strong enough to do any lasting damage, it does hurt quite a lot. It is on the stronger side of wasp stings, so do your best to avoid these, but they are not typically described as aggressive. Now, this comment mentioned it was trying to attack them through the glass. I would assume that is not the case. Additionally, they are solitary wasps, so they don't form those big hive units. They only have their own nest, which I guess if you are, like, bothering their nest, they will probably come out and try to chase you off. But again, if you leave them alone and if you're not actively harassing them or their nest, they are most likely going to leave you alone. I don't know what was up with this wasp that the comment mentioned, but they were probably not trying to attack you. Now, there are other types of spider wasps that can be found in Australia, but this one is the largest and the most commonly seen one as far as I'm aware. Again, I don't live in Australia. I've never been to Australia. I would like to go, but I haven't. But yes, a very interesting insect, and if you don't like huntsman spiders, maybe you'll like these guys.